ETAuto and ET manufacturing. Please welcome these two gentlemen, Narayan and CEO Ultraviolette Automotive.
Narayan, let me take back you to your college days when you won about 40 engineering awards along with your co-founder leaders.
Right, so this was during the 4 years in university, and I think benefits of not having mobile phones at mainstream availability back then, right? So all of us had time during engineering, and frankly, the syllabus was something we would always study last minute overnight and clear the exams. But between Neeraj and me, Neeraj, my co-founder today, we both go back a long way. We went to the same school, same university as well. And during those 4 years, we spent a lot of time tinkering around, innovating with a lot of cross-functional innovation. So we took part in, I'm sure a lot of you will know, IIT Bombay has an event called the Tech Fest. IIT Chennai has something called a Shastra. These colleges had very nice annual fests that had great opportunity for designers and engineers to really find something innovative as a solution to a problem. We worked on electric aircrafts. In fact, the first time we worked with lithium batteries was back in 2007 it was a competition about having a limited energy source and the maximum flight time. So it involved getting the principles of aviation right, aerodynamics, getting the energy sources, and how do you optimize efficiency across the board. From that to hardcore robotics, you remember RoboWars? We've seen them on YouTube and TV. We had versions of that in colleges as well. So we spent 4 years doing a lot of this. And I think what we built was a DNA to take the best approaches from different domains, from software, electronics, electrical innovation, mechanics, and a new way of solving problems. And that today is the foundation of Ultraviolette, which we didn't know back then. So post-college, we went into our professional journeys. I went into automobile design, went to NID Ahmedabad, went to Umeå in Sweden, 2 masters in design, worked at Germany with Volkswagen for some time, worked in Japan with Daihatsu for a while. In the four-wheeler industry, parallelly mapping, tracking the growth of brands like Tesla, which was a great source of inspiration, from the Roadster, which was, not seen as a mass adoption-friendly vehicle, to the Model S 6-7 years down the line, now being commercially successful. So that led me back to India in 2015. Neeraj, in the meantime, was with Yahoo, one of the first few employees at Yahoo India in the heydays. From then to working with NetApp between Bangalore and US. He also made his move back to India in 2015. We were clear the future of mobility is going to undergo a fundamental transformation, and we wanted to play a role in the foundational part there. So the benefits of electric powertrain when you have the whole system in place is cost per kilometer, there's a definite value there, and outright performance. So for us, these were two opportunities when we looked at the EV space. We were also contemplating electric four-wheelers at that point, but the visibility of raising capital in a country which hadn't seen too much hardware successes at that point in time wasn't too clear. So we thought we'll start with two-wheelers, and within that, good question, scooters versus motorcycle. But that is where some learnings from the Tesla approach came into play, where the Model S solved for the foundational technology that was able to scale rapidly into the X, Y, the 3, and further on. So for us, we are not in it for an exit as founders. We are in it to try and shape the industry, right? So building long-term was key. At that point, the FAME subsidy also capped your the price of the vehicle at 1.5 lakhs. And when you're in a very early stage of building new technology, if you're already working with a price cap, then in a certain way and form, you're also constraining innovation. So given this, given the fact that we saw merit in going top-down, we wanted to build the entire foundational tech. Today, you mentioned the fastest Indian automobile ever built. So that is the F99, which is running on a 400-volt battery architecture. Our starting products were at 48-volt architectures. Our scooter coming in next is at a 100-volt architecture. So we've built multiple battery architectures for various powertrain applications today. That took us 8 years, and we were clear going top-down is going to help us with a competitive advantage as the industry starts to mature. It depends on the types of people and the types of funds you're also talking to. Most VC funds have an exit cycle as well. They have those threshold timelines to meet. And India had seen a lot of SaaS companies and e-commerce companies prior to that, where it is an iterative business model and it's not a fundamentally new form of technology. Right? So this was new, frankly, for a lot of people we were talking to in the investment circles as well. So we did get that feedback. Why do you want to take such an approach that is going to consume time and do fundamental R&D? We still don't know if the outcome is 3 years out, 5 years out. But fortunately, we met the right people who helped, bridge those times. Our first investor was from Speciale, today one of India's most credible deep tech investors, and a gentleman called Vishesh. So he was the first investor in the company, along with Dulquer Salman, who is a very famous actor. Of course, you know him. So that happened in 2016. Then Zoho, with the promoter Sridhar Vembu and his brother Kumar Vembu, who built a great enterprise ground up from India, going global. I think they saw a lot of merit in what we were doing in the hardware space. Them, along with TVS Motors, invested in the company at a very early stage. And post then, we've got some very, very long-term oriented technology partners. Qualcomm Ventures, we're working with Qualcomm on building future-ready technology on the electronic stack on the vehicles. We are also the first company to introduce radars on vehicles. So a lot of these were in the conversation 4 or 5 years back itself. So Qualcomm, then the Lingoto Group from Europe with Excerpt, and TDK recently, the Japanese entity, TDK Ventures, came on board. So you'll see the nature of capital is not a conventional VC. I think today we are at a point where we are looking at inflection in the next 6 to 12 months. And conventional capital should start to come in from this point on. But the early stage of raising capital was more from people who understood tech and believed in the long-term vision of what we're building. So since we're in the foundational phase of electric vehicles, right, for two-wheelers, we were not yet sure whether the industry is going to take a modular battery and a swapping route, or a fixed battery architecture. So the early stages of the growth of the business, we were working on modular packs for the first 5 years. Then we transitioned into fixed battery architecture, because by then a few companies, Ather and a couple of other scooters, had launched in the market, and we could see that the customer behavior was more towards charging at home. But of course, on a motorcycle, your range expectation is a lot higher. So while our modular batteries were able to do about 150 kilometer range, we were theoretically able to do, this was in the 1.5 years during COVID, gave us an opportunity to rethink our tech stack, and also made a tough call back then of going from modular batteries to fixed batteries. And then today we are able to offer a range of 300 kilometers on a single charge, which outcompetes a full tank of petrol for performance motorcycles. The manufacturing ecosystem is great. It's fantastic, the kind of scale we're able to cater to. On the two-wheeler side, it's quite different from China, because China has optimized for the ultra low-end mobility use cases of micro-mobility and last-mile commute on two-wheelers, which are very low-powered, sub 2 kilowatt output, smaller batteries. And then it's a lot of innovation that's happened on the four-wheeler side of things. This whole spectrum of two-wheelers from, say, 100cc scooters, mopeds and motorcycles, all the way to 600cc is very unique to India. If you look at the origin of two-wheelers, the cluster was from Japan. Then we had a cluster in UK with UK and Italy. And then you had the American culture, right? These were the hotspots for two-wheelers that have shaped the industry. India was heavily influenced by the Japanese two-wheeler ecosystem. But today on the EV side, it is still such an early phase where you're still trying to define the base layers of technology. From the energy source, what cell chemistry you're using, to thermal management and thermal engineering, between active cooling to passive cooling, to defining the other parts of the stack, your vehicle control unit, the motor controller, the chargers, all of it rated for different applications in different parts of the world. That's what we are building for. So it's been a rather exciting journey, and we wouldn't be able to do it without the support of the Indian manufacturing ecosystem. Of course, early on, there was time taken to communicate what we want versus what the capability is. But what we've seen in the last 5 years is that openness because I think everybody understands, even in the tier 1, tier 2 vendor partner ecosystem, that the world is changing. And we have younger people coming into the fold now. A lot of the management also has the second generation now in the operations, and they've had a wider view of the world, right? Traveled around, seen the world. So their openness to work closer with emerging companies like ourselves is something that we've seen as a factor that has boosted the way we've gone about it. It's still not the time. You should just walk into R&D. You'll know the chaos that is realistically happening on the floor. It's a small team. It's a lean team. Of course, we are operating with significantly constrained resources, capital compared to the incumbents. So the approach is always going to be scrappy. It's going to be trying to punch above your weight class. And none of us feel that it's reached a stage where we can now take a step back and relax. It's not that at all. So Scooter, the Tesseract, I think it's going to be a disruptor in the market, because while the rest of the industry has gone bottom up, India started out with a 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt power band, and it's stabilized at about 5 kilowatt today. But if you look at what we're doing with the Tesseract, we are the only attempt at a scooter category that is coming top down. We started off with 30, 40 kilowatt capable systems and now doing 100 kilowatt on the F99. A lot of that learning and the tech that we've built to enable higher currents, larger voltages, as a consequence, higher power outputs. And in a scooter, higher power output means more load carrying capability, more terrain riding capability. While today India has seen absorption of scooters in the south and the west, middle and northeast still require more capable vehicles for handling all of the use cases that we spoke about. Scooter is also one of the most abused vehicles in the country. Nobody uses it like the way it is marketed or advertised, right? A family of 3, family of 4 riding a scooter is a commonplace expectation. So building for this today, our view was we need to outperform what the IC engine scooters have to offer. And that's where the guidelines for the project came about. And since we're coming top down, we were able to leverage all of that tech and performance and bring it to a compelling price point as well. Right, see, scale is important, but not scale at the cost of quality or customer centricity in the approach. We are very clear on that. And the fundamental belief that we started Ultraviolette was, is it easier for us to crack distribution or the larger guys to crack entire tech stack from batteries, motors, controllers, chargers, VCU, and everything, all of the software layers in between? And we believe the tech was harder, and we crack it first. Distribution is an operational challenge, and of course, if the product is seeing traction and adoption, then distribution will also follow course. So today we're at 45 cities pan-India, on scale to hit about 100 cities by the end of the year. And with the Tesseract launching as well, we already have a roadmap of pre-orders and bookings and interests pan-India for us to now map out the next phase of growth from our distribution standpoint. Customer, of course, is somebody who's got a great appreciation towards tech, has grown up on tech and flamboyance. See, for a motorcyclist, it's what do people want? 1, design. 2, tech. 3, performance. If all 3 come together at a compelling price point, you've got a solid product. So for us, design was we wanted to make something that would make India proudly being seen at a global scale. You mentioned we're in 12 countries today. So when people see the F77 from London to Berlin to Paris to now we're scaling to other parts of Eastern Europe as well, the product feels at home. And I was discussing this with Pratap also sometime, like, if you look at the B6, that product feels at home. It is not necessary that it's a derivative of a Indian design identity. Yeah. So we've cracked that. Second, the second part is on the performance. We are now offering performance between a 400 to a 600 cc. And if you ride the vehicles, all torque without having to shift gears. And now the four-wheeler industry went through a transition. Right now, none of us are riding a manual transmission anymore. All of it is automatic transmission, right? So that is the advantage you get with a high-performance electric drivetrain. You get all of that torque in traffic without having to deal with the gear and first and second gear and half clutching. And third aspect is the outright thrill of riding the bike. And we've also overloaded the vehicle with a lot of tech which is industry first. ABS, traction control, dynamic stability control. We're the first company to bring radars on two-wheelers. So the part of the stack of what ADAS offers to you, we are able to do that on the X47s today. Blind spot detection, collision alert, overtake alert, all of it very, very useful when you're doing longer distance highway riding, for instance, across terrain conditions, weather conditions. So tech will continue to be a differentiator. And for us, our consumers relate to tech because every year that we move forward from today, we are talking to a generation that has grown up on tech, right? So that is going to be a strong factor for both four-wheelers and two-wheelers as we move forward.
Thank you, Narayan, for joining us today. It was wonderful chatting with you. I'll open the house to questions. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Narayan. Myself, Sampath. I'm from being a big fan, but so I saw your launch video sometime back in 2016 or sometime, I guess, on YouTube. The way you launched. Then recently I saw your vehicle in Isle of Man TT, so very big surprise for me. So I like to have your thought why you take your vehicle to Isle of Man TT. So that's my first question. And the second question is, do you have any plans to participate in Moto E, like the races like that? So being described as by yourself, it's a small lean team which you're working. So in the downtime, do you have any plans to participate in Moto E? That's my second question. And my third question is like in countries like Europe, where we have companies like Zero, where they have that e-bikes. Recently, I heard about West Motorcycles. They are using the solid state batteries, which is a bit which has 400 kilowatt hour per kilogram. Are you going to use the same lithium chemistry in your batteries, or you want to change the chemistry in the times?
Sure. Okay, to summarize, I think your three questions are Isle of Man, Moto E, and battery chemistry, right? So first on Isle of Man, I think for us, all motorcyclists, Isle of Man is sort of the home for everything dangerous and everything motorcycling. It's got a very rich history. Isle of Man, interestingly, had a format called Isle of Man Zero till about 6 years back, which was purely for electric vehicles. And then I think they ran out of sponsorships and interesting parties coming to take part in that format. So for us, taking the F77s there was about signaling to them and even starting that conversation, getting that conversation going on, can we reopen the Zero category? And now we have, I think the EV world has matured. We have multiple products, like you mentioned, Can-Am, Harley Davidson, with the Livewire, Zero, Ultraviolette. We've got multiple cool motorcycles that could sort of re-enter into this format. So the intent was that. And of course, Indian engineering at Isle of Man, it's always been a personal dream to us as well. The second aspect was Moto E. The F99 is suited, or it's at the threshold of getting into such segments. Racing is highly capital intensive. So for a smaller company, we don't have the liberty to say we have a massive racing team with massive capital to just do that. For us, whatever we do on the racing front is a feeder system into R&D. So if you look at the Ferraris and the BMWs of the world, a lot of what they've cracked on F1 actually comes down to useful features and tech on the customer vehicles in a certain span of time. So our interest will always be there. The F99, for example, the intent was to crack 400 volt battery architectures, which is way ahead of where the industry is at. For context today, electric cars operate between 400 to 800 volts. So for us, packaging that kind of energy density, power density into a two-wheeler format was a massive challenge to crack. Now we've done that, and I think subsequently as the company scales, we should be able to get deeper into the global motorsports circuit. Third, on solid state batteries, I think you were talking about some PR that happened during CES. Still far from reality from where we see, which is why we do not get into cell chemistry. All of our IP that's built on the battery is more on thermal management, on enhancing power density, enhancing life cycle of the batteries. For example, we've got customers, one person called Harish, who's clocked 1.5 lakh kilometers on his F77 in just under 2 years. That's incredible amount of riding, and our batteries are still at over 95% of the original rated capacity. So while we don't want to get into chemistry because that world is evolving, and we believe the companies that are developing chemistry for the last 3-4 decades are the right people to be continuing doing that. At a point in time, if there is a shift in the industry, we will be able to accommodate that. And also we are working very closely with the cell manufacturers as well to have a view into what is 2 years ahead and what is probably 5 years ahead.
We can have one more question.
Narayan,
Nishant here from Republic Group. I'm a big fan of Ultraviolette. Since you told just now you wanted to launch Ultraviolette in four-wheeler space back then. Now, do you have plans to enter the four-wheeler space?
Good question.
Not something I can commit on right now, and for the next 3-4 years, for sure, we will not have the bandwidth to do that. I think the intent is to get a very stable company with, on the motorcycles, we've announced 4 formats: sports, dirt motorcycles with the shockwave, street motorcycles, and cruiser motorcycles. So, and on scooters, we've announced the Tesseract, and for sure, there may be variants of the scooter platform as well. And it's going to take us 3-4 years to stabilize this, get to a solid stage in the company's trajectory where we would be in India plus, say, LATAM, Europe, North America, parts of Southeast Asia, and probably look at some form of a listing event at that point in time with a very robust, profitable business. And maybe only post that point in time do we have the liberty or freedom to evaluate what next.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man, for joining us. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.